Welcome to Daily IELTS English, a short video where I'll go over some of the techniques and ideas that I share with my students to help them bring up their speaking test scores in IELTS and just to have better English in general. Today's question is, what does a good newspaper contain? And I want to give a slightly different kind of answer today. I want to teach you a little technique that's going to help you give better answers in speaking and writing. And that's just to think about problems in society. And it's about how to generate ideas for the test. Very common problem is people just say, Mark, I don't have ideas. So all I want you to do, and feel free to put your ideas down in the comments below. What are some of the problems related to the topic of news in society? So you take these questions and think, what is the big picture? What is the global problem with this question? In this case, the news, reading the news. And one of the problems I would look at is how we read the news. We have the option of going online and choosing very specifically what we read. I remember when I was younger, my parents would always read newspapers. So they would receive a newspaper every morning and it would have information about local news, global news, sports, both local and international, entertainment, and business. And I think that this is really important. It helps people look at what's happening locally, globally, and in different areas of society. The reason I think that these things are important is that they help us communicate with the people in our lives. If you're at work, if you're at school, your ability to understand what is happening in the world is going to help you relate to other people. So thinking about this and how today's news, if you go online, you can actually curate your news feed. You can decide what kind of news you want to get. If you only want news about crime, you can only get that. And that's going to give you a very specific way of looking at the world. If you only want politics, that's going to give you another very, very narrow view of the world. So to me, this is a big problem, and this is going to help inform the way I answer the question. Now, looking back to the question, what does a good newspaper contain? This is what my response might be. A good newspaper will contain a number of sections, including local news, international news, business news, sports, and even entertainment. This is actually really important because I think the reason to read the news is so that you can understand what's happening better in the world and maybe relate to the people in your life a little bit better. Even if there are topics that you're not interested in, maybe say sports or entertainment, the people around you are going to be interested in this. They're going to be talking about this, or this might be affecting them in some way. And if you're aware of it, it's going to help you interact with those people and relate to them. It may also help you make decisions, something that you do in your work or in your daily life that can actually have a global impact. And I think that's important as well. Sadly, I think a lot of people are becoming very narrow in what they read in the news. Some people are only focused on sports or only focused on politics. And admittedly, I'm guilty of this to a certain extent as well. I am a Canadian living in Australia, and I'm still probably paying more attention to what's happening in Canada than I am here, what's happening in Australia. And this does affect me at times when I'm speaking with my friends who are Australian. They do sometimes talk about topics and I feel like I'm not really sure what they're talking about, or I don't have any insights, and it actually prevents me from communicating with them. It is possible to ask questions, but sometimes that can be difficult because I don't really have a starting place to begin asking questions. That's all for today, guys. It was a bit more of a theoretical way of approaching the IELTS test. Make sure that when you are practicing for the test, look at these questions. Think about the bigger picture. What are the global problems that might be connected with that question? English comes from ideas. French comes from ideas. Mandarin comes from ideas. Hindi. All languages, ideas first. So remember, don't just use the questions to speak English. Use the questions to think about your opinions, your perspectives, and what you think is happening in the world. If you do that, the English will come a lot easier and you can get that higher score and even continue to improve after you've taken your test, which I think most of you plan to do. Anyway, that's all for today. I'd love to know your thoughts down there in the comments below. Otherwise, please remember, language is a habit, so practice till you get it right and then keep going till you can't get it wrong, and I'll see you soon.